Jacob's ladder, right? About when people try to go straight to the top, right? Or they try to, they skip the steps. They want to skip the steps of Jacob's ladder, and what ends up happening is that you end up crashing. I think it's in the section that says it's getting high. I don't know if you
Yeah,
recall
yeah,
that
I
area.
remember. I remember it. I remember. You know, you write something, and you just like you've written so many other things after that. And you're just like, which one? What did I say on that point? You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And so
What
that was
chapter
it.
is
That was
that? Was
really.
it the fourth chapter?
No, no, no. I think that's the second chapter.
Oh, you're in the second chapter. Okay, cool, perfect.
It's right there.
So that's the 1%. That's the 1% and 99%.
Yeah, well, because when people are using, um, let's see here, when people are using drugs, is their attempt to tap into the 99%,
Mm.
right? And so with anything, um, you you begin to say, oh, let me see if I can find it. Well, there it is. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, let's see it. It says, people who turn to drugs to get high are trying to connect to the world of the 99%. They're not trying to feel any physical desire. The problem is that they're trying to jump straight into a world of spirituality without going up the ladder. To reach for the heavens, one must get there step by step, like the ladder that Jacob famously saw in his dream that stretched all the way to the heavens. You see, and I think that was a very profound um, perspective of when we try to jump too fast and we try to move too fast, and even understanding the Creator. You gotta take step by step, step by step. And there was another insight too that I really enjoyed, is when you begin to talk about the Shabbat and how the Shabbat, um, you compared it to a uh, just dealing with just the preparation, and how it represents that door down that hallway. How there's a
Mm.
hallway, and then that door, the Shabbat is also door, but that's also the world to come. It represents the world to come. It was really, really, really. I was able to meditate on that for a while. That was really good.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Yeah, Mind the Black Jew. I've been so like just moving forward, moving forward. I haven't even really marketed the book yet. I mean, we will. But I haven't really put it out. I haven't. I mean, I did a couple podcasts and it sold a lot. Like on one podcast I went on, I sold like 300 books, like in like a day. You know what I mean, type of thing. And that wasn't like a huge podcast. It was, that the what are they named the Hearts. You ever see this? The family, they're called the Hearts.
No, I'm
House
not
or House of
familiar.
Lev, House of Lev, House of Lev.
Yeah, yes, yes, House of Love. Yes,
Seen their videos.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I did a thing with them and their audience. They snatched up like 300 books. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, it was crazy. So it's a very good project. There's a lot, like that book was written in when I was in yeshiva, right? When I was like learning from morning to night, and that went on for like almost 5 years, right? And so I wanted people to. The reason why I named it Mind of the Black Jew was for two reasons. One, I feel in general that African American intellect is not put in the forefront. People talk about what we did and how great it is what we did, but they never talk about the thinking process behind it, right? To go
Mhm.
through slavery, to go through the type of stress, the type of pressure it was
Mhm.
or is even still today, is to live as a black male specifically, in America as a black person. No one talks about our intellect. You know what I'm saying? Like even you see these athletes. I mean, we've never even researched Muhammad Ali's intellect. You know what I mean? Or even LeBron James or Michael Jordan. To be able to do that. So I wanted to I wanted to start that process. You know what I mean? I wanted to like start that process of our intellect. And another issue is from a Kabbalistic perspective, black is accumulation of all the colors, right? All the
Right.
colors that when you put them all together is black. So Mind the Black Jew is really connecting to all of God's minds, all the minds that God has created in those things. You know what I mean? So it's a combination of removing the racial part and saying like, no, black doesn't mean that. First of all, my skin's not black. Okay, that's number one, right? So you're defining me for a specific reason. Second point is is the idea of saying that black itself has a spiritual property, which is an accumulation. And when Shlomo Melech says I'm black and I'm beautiful, it's like it's not necessarily saying black is skin tone. He's talking about he he made mistakes, but he's still beautiful in front of God. You know what I mean? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what he's speaking about. He's not talking about race. Race is a Western idea. So anyway, so I want to continue on this process of this dynamic of learning together, right? And this is the basis of what I think you guys can make such a huge impact, to all the people that you guys meet and come in contact with is from this context of building a learning relationship
Mm-hmm.
with each other. Not saying you don't already, but in the style of learning that we're doing now, right? In those types of things. So one of the things that you see me when I'm have other classes on the YouTube, one of the things that is so important right now is creating systems of functionality in the house, meaning spiritual functionality. So, for example, one of the things I'm working on with one gentleman who I'm introduced, he wants to meet, he wants to chill. So we'll set that up. So one of the things that we're setting up is like, he's married, he's successful, his wife's successful, and so as a man of the house, how does he prepare his home for the holidays? Right?
Mm.
Every month there's like some new thing going out, blah blah blah, this whole thing. So how do we prepare our family for whatever power that exists in that month? How do we prepare our family for the new moon, right? Which is setting the tone for all that, right? And because this is the part of our leadership. We don't need anyone else to tell us. Once you have the ability to look, you can always refer. You have people like me, you have people like Rabbi Pinchas and other people that are involved. But ultimately, the goal is for you to be self-sufficient in your learning, that at least basic questions, you'll be able to answer independently and answer for other people, in your community, right? Because like the message you sent me, one of the biggest things is having a court system, right? Is
Yeah.
is having a mechanism that's independent of the federal government or anybody, right? Where people could perform their own spiritual marriages. They could annul those marriages, God forbid it happens. There is community events with raging children, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, anniversaries, death anniversaries. It's a whole system of things. And so when you have a court system that says, hey, on this day, this is going to be the new moon, right? I mean, we have information, but it still has to be announced to the community, right?
That's
But
right. That's right.
right in or say Shabbat, or there's something, or there's a special energy that's available in this month. Like right now we're in Kislev, right? So this month, Kislev, this is the month of miracles. What is a
Yeah.
miracle? The things that you thought were a curse actually turn out to be a blessing. And you could see that clearly now. You could clearly see in this month, you could tap into this energy and see that everything that I thought was something bad actually end up to gravitate me to something great. Everything is good. Everything comes from the creator. And that's a miracle. Some people think, oh, the miracle, the sea has a split. Okay, that's a miracle too. But being able to see and have clarity, because in our life, like, I got this regret, I got that regret, this didn't happen. So anyway, so this is great in line, because what we're going to do today is that we're going to understand what does astrology and what does the system of the universe mean as it relates to the Torah and its sages, right? Which is like, in essence, your ancestors, right? What did they think about these mechanisms? How do they function? And using it as a basis, because one of the dynamics of understanding the Torah is to understand it isolated from the wisdom of the other nations, right? We can't
Mm-hmm.
take in the wisdom of other nations to use to understand what's going on. So when we say a holiday, right? If you say it to the average person, hey, we got a holiday coming. What's a holiday? Hanukkah. We got
Mm-hmm.
to remove that thinking. because that's not what we're doing, and we have to recorrect. So we're going to start with the Gemara, and we're going to build out with this discussion of the Gemara. In the Gemara is this title of it is Shabbat. So I'm going to bring this up so we can look at it inside. And so this is the intro of this understanding, because the thing is, you're going to have people at your house, and you're going to have to explain to them how the cosmic system works before we could even get into what happened here? Okay, hold on one second. Before we even get into the holiday itself, right? Because we want to make sure that we don't have secular ideas. Okay, so how do we understand astrology? How do we understand the cosmos? How do we understand the stars? What is the view of the sages? How do we understand this? Okay, so this is what we're going to dive into. So this is in Shabbat 156a, right? So when you come back, it's on video too, so you can look at it. But if you want to do additional stuff, so it says ve'av rav savar ein mazil le Israel. So he says like this. So Mazal. So he says like this. So he says that Rav. Okay, so it's in the middle of a discussion. Okay, so it's just going for, but we're in the right place, right? He says Rav also holds that there is no constellation for Jewish people. Okay, so what does it mean? There's no constellation for Jewish people, meaning that what they're going to show is that the astrological effects of the planet, right? Meaning that the alignment of the stars, right? Like we said, for example, when there's a full moon, the tides recede, right? The tides recede. And why? He said because the revealment of the moon in its gravitational pull affects the waters, and it pulls the water back. It recedes the gravitational pull from the moon. So us too, we're made up of 90% water, maybe more, maybe less, whatever. It depends what scientists you talk to. But the point is saying we are made up of water. And not only us, the animals, not only that, the plants and all of living is functional. So the movement of the earth, the movement of the stars, the movement of the planet, the movement of the cosmos affects the earth, right? And it affects the people of the earth, right? Because I'm also affected by this gravitational pull. But we're going to learn here that God made the world in a way that effect does not affect us. So when people talk about Mercury's in retrograde and this is going on and this is the closest time that these two planets were together and now's the time of war, whatever they come up with, these influences don't understand that. And the Gemara is going to bring this and drill this into our head to bring different scenarios that we should not think that we are beholden to the effects of the stars. We are above that. So if that's the case, and we'll get into this later, if that's the case, what is this concept of holidays, right? If this holiday is coming on the 25th of Kislev, and it's this alignment, and we should be connected to it and do this and this, or Pesach, the 15th of Nisan, 14th of Nisan, Rosh Hashanah, 1st of Tishri, all these different holy days. If we're not affected by the constellations, what are we doing on those days? That's the point of this conversation, right? That's the point of this conversation, because Christmas, wow, I can't believe I just said that. Okay, but the point is the same. That day, right? That day is a holiday, and people celebrate it, and they give gifts, and they have this whole thing, and they have their reasons why. So we have to be able to remove people from the understanding of what the Gentiles do and versus what people of Israel do, right? Because those are two different things, right? The Gentiles, they're subjugated by the cosmic influences, as we're okay, so let's go into it, but I want to give that. So it says, Rob holds that there's no consolation for the Jewish people, as Rav Yehuda said, that Rob said, and a lot of times you're going to see this in Gemara, people say in the name of their teacher, right? Because they're following a tradition. They're not just, hypothesizing, they didn't had a couple of drinks and they have these great thoughts, right? No, it's like this is really how they think, right? They're saying it in the name of their teacher, right? I learned this, so I'm saying it, right? And this is a way like father to son, teacher to student, this type of thing. So it says from here it is derived that there is no consolation for the Jewish people. So they're asking a question, right? So you're saying from he said they're asking questions. So from where? Where do you get this idea from? Because as Jews, even when our greatest rabbi says something, we want to know where he got it from. So they're asking a question, where did you get this idea that Jewish people are above constellations? Now, this is the beginning of the conversation. So it says like this, as it's stated in regards to Abraham, and he brought out him outside. So what's going on in this situation? So this is Genesis chapter 15, right? This is chapter 15 and verse 5, right? And in that verse, just to give a little context to it, just because whatever, might as well because I have a Torah right in front of me. So it says in chapter 15, verse 5, it says, hold on, verse 5, where we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5. I messed up the screen. I'll bring it back. Hold on. Okay. So chapter 15, you could bring it up too if you have, but I'll bring the screen back. Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, so chapter 15 says like this, right? It says like this. So what's going on right now? Now, this is the angels are coming to Abraham's house, and they're telling him that he's going to have a kid, right? So verse 4, verse 5, there's a beautiful midrash to this too, and this is what they're really going off of, is this point. So he says, Vayotse, he took out Vayotse Oto Ha Hu, he took him outside, Ve'amru. So and he says Ve'omer, and he said to him, Habet na. So he says Habet na, right? He says, and he glazed outside. So basically, it's like this, right? Without going into the whole thing, the angels come to Abraham and they tell him he's going to have kids, and he says to him, he's like, no way. I'm not going to have kids. I've already saw it. I know the stars. I know all those sciences. I'm old. My wife's old. There's no way I'm having any kids. We've already done it. So what did they do? They took him outside. They said that the angels, they were in his tent, and he's explaining this whole thing. The Midrashim says that the angels took him outside. How did they take him outside? One angel was under like he was like underneath his right arm. His other angel was underneath the left arm, and they escorted him out like a family, right? They're all escorting him out, and they fly up to the heavens, right? They fly up. This is Midrash. They flew. They took Abraham up to the heavens. These angels, and from the heavens, he was able to see the astrological alignments, the universes, and all this, the cosmos, all this. And then the angels took him even to a higher level, right? Even a higher levels where he's looking down on the stars. And they said, from down there, you were right. That's the way that the stars work. And from that standpoint, that's right. But you are above the stars, and your lineage will be above the stars, meaning that you will be able to dictate the stars. So we're going to go into that. But this is what the Gemara says. And he brought him outside, the angels, and said, look towards the heaven and count the stars. And if you're able to count them, and he said unto them, shall be your offspring, right? And he says, so the sages derived from this that Abraham said before the Holy One, blessed be he, the master of the universe, behold, you have given me no offspring, and one born in my house is to be my heir. The Holy One, blessed be he, says no. He's talking about Eliezer at this point. He says no. And he says, and behold, the Lord, he says, and behold, the words of the Lord saying to him, that a man should not, that this man should not be your heir. Rather, the one that will come forth from your own loins will be your heir, your inwards, right? So this is the idea, right? The idea is saying that there's a belief system that Abraham had based off of how everybody in the world saw it, right? He learned these sciences, he traveled around the world. So the way the world saw it, that's how Abraham responded, right? But now the angels are showing him something different. Amar Lifana, they said before him, Ribono Shalom. He says, Nas Kalati Be'itz Tagani Nut Sheli. So he says, So he says like this: Abraham said before the master. Abraham said, he says, Master, I have looked. So this is what I was talking about. Master, I have looked at the astrological map, and according to the configurations of my constellations, I am not fit to have a son. And the Holy One, blessed be He, emerges from. It said to him, emerge from your astrology, as the verse state, and he brought him outside. So this is what the verse is teaching us. When they say brought him outside, they were removing him from that old way of thinking. As there is no constellation for Israel. What are you thinking? So this is a huge thing. This is a huge thing because when we understand this idea of constellations, we have to understand it from the frame of limitation, right? Abraham represents expansiveness, hesed, giving, sharing, expansiveness, right? But he was living in a reality that constricted him to certain belief systems that his true expansive nature could not manifest, right? And you got to realize Abraham is not just our father. This is like literally our relative, our DNA relative. Okay, this is our relative. This isn't someone who's like far away that's wise that we're learning from, and Buddha and Confucius and no, this is our relative, right? Someone who will be saying the same things to us, right? If he was with us. So the point is saying that he's learning something different. And so when we learn about the system of astrology as it relates for Israel, we have to understand it's not just about astrology. It doesn't matter what the physical world presents itself to us, there's no limitations to what we can accomplish. That's it. It doesn't matter what the rules of society say. It doesn't matter how big the buildings are and how they put this. And you know what our greatest proof to this is? Yosef Asadiq. He was in prison 12 years, broken in there. The hope that he gets out, cleans himself up, goes and says a few words to the Pharaoh, and now he's a ruler of all the whole world, right? All of Egypt, the whole world, right? And so that is the basis of the Jew, right? And that's why Jews go and do great things in the world, right? Regardless. And I'm not saying some people are Jews, they don't even know it. But it's just saying you see that as a consistent thing. You see, like even with Nobel Peace Prize winners, there's such a disproportionate amount of that connected with Jews, right? And then you see people like African Americans who are reclaiming their connection to the tribes of the west of Africa who are Israelites. And you see how great we were. We put America on our back. You know what I'm saying? The people who are whipping us, we said, we're going to put you on our back, and the whole world loves you because of us. They don't love America because of George Washington or Donald Trump. No, they love it because the slaves in the civil rights movement told them that they could fight against a power and achieve some level of equity, right? Some level of sovereignty, right? That they could push forward and they could change their reality. That's why people believe in America, right? So it's the same idea of this reality of limitation that has been put on us. That's why they have to call us black. That's why they have to change our dynamic. That's why they have to give us poor school systems. That's why they have to distribute economics and opportunities for entrepreneurship different for us than even immigrants that come in. How many millionaires were created in our community by Koreans selling hair products to our communities? So the point is the same. So this idea of and the constellations is a framework of limitations around the cosmos, but that limitation is not limited to that, right? And so what Abraham is going through in this particular sugya, this particular daf, is that he's saying that I was trained by the world in the abilities and my desires are not going to be fulfilled, right? And so it's another very important thing that's being said here too, right? And it's important to do this because we're rebuilding the intellect right now, right? He says he begs the creator for a child before this happened. And the Gemara brings that. It brings that he said to Hashem, is Eliezer supposed to be my heir? I mean, blah, 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 this whole thing, right? I need a child. I need kids. You know, I mean, I'm talking to a man right now with 10 kids. You know, I need to get one, right? So I'm in that Abraham position. God, with God's help, we'll get through it. But the point is, and be successful, right? But the point is saying that he was fighting against a world designed by men, right? And he was struggling in that world. But we don't understand. If God gives us a desire, that desire didn't come from Abraham. That desire came from God. So if God gave him the desire to have a need to not have to have a son, that must mean that God had a Yeshua, had a salvation waiting for him, right? It already was there. This is the cosmic code. God gives us desires. The dreams that we have, the motivations that we have, come from the Creator. They're not our own thoughts. The dreams that we have are from the Creator. They are true. They are true. And so we get stopped because we say, oh, wait, God put this vision of who I'm supposed to be in my head. But look around me. Look around me. How could that be me? Right? There's no way that that could be me. Right? And so that's what we're dealing with. This is the basis of the Hebrew calendar. Right? This is the basis of what we're doing. And we're going to get closer. So what do you mean we're above the stars? We still got to deal with that issue. So let's keep going. So he says, so how does this work? How does this work? They're going to take it to such a level. And the thing, the Gemara, it doesn't reveal itself completely. That's why it's so important to have a teacher like myself and other people who are taught the Masorah that could take you into the language and show what they're saying. Listen to what he says right here. He says, De ka'e sadiq be ma'a arav, right? Erev, arav, right? So he says like this. Sedek. So he says like this. He says, because Jupiter is situated in the west, you cannot have children. I will restore it and establish it in the east. And that is the meaning of which is written regards to Abraham. Who rises up from the east, he will call justice. To his steps, he gives nations before him and makes him ruler over kings. His sword makes them as dust, and in his bow is driven stubbles. And I guess it's a verse in Isaiah. God establishes Jupiter on the east on behalf of Abraham. So he's saying like this: God will change the planets for you, right? Like he will give you a vision. God will give you a vision and say, hey, you know what? This is your vision. You are supposed to go to Israel, study Torah, and become a rabbi, right? Okay, fine. That's what God says. I keep going this direction. But how does it open up? Oh, I can't do this. This doesn't happen. What about money? What about this? What about that? No, God is going to rearrange the stars to do your bidding. And that's what he had to explain to Abraham. Yes, there is a physical reality. Yes, it's in front of you. Yes, it's true. But however, for Israel, for the descendants of Abraham, I changed the planets for you guys. I change the planets. I run this show. I'm the master of the universe. I move Jupiter from this side. Okay, you're right. Jupiter, you say, you're right. You did your constellations. You did your astrological stuff. Okay, you're right. So Jupiter over there means that on the Jupiter on the west represents you can't have kids. Okay, so I'll move it over to the other side. This is our relationship with Hashem. This is who we are. It's not just people who are smart and remembered a bunch of facts. No, we're intrinsically a part of creation, right? We are part of creation. And so the thoughts and the ideas that we have literally move the stars. So let's go. They're going to bring another example. Umi de Shmuel name ein mazal Israel. And he says from what, and he's bringing another example. For what transpired with Prophet Shmuel. One can conclude that there's no consolation for the Jewish people. What happened? The Gemara relates that Prophet Shmuel and the Gentile sage Abelet were sitting, and they saw these people going into the lake. Abelet said to Shmuel, "This person will go, and he will not return, because a snake will bite him, and he will die." Shmuel said to him, "If he is a Jew, he will go and come back." As they were sitting for a while, the person they were discussing went away and then returned. Kam avalet shad ye tu nein shachat. Sorry, aschat. So, anyways, Bet Z Vaye. So this is Aramaic, so it's not the same Hebrew like letters. I mean, like pronunciations. You know what I mean? So he says, Abad stood up and he threw down the person's. Abad stood up, threw down the person's burden, and inside he found a snake cut in a cast in two pieces. Okay, I'm trying to understand what happened right here. Okay, so this whole so some situation. I'm trying to understand this word here. Let me look at it Hebrew. There's a word. It's not. He's saying like this. He says he jumped up and threw down the person's burden. I don't understand what that means. A person's burden. Hold on. Let me look at this for 1 second.
I think that's whatever he was carrying, like like his luggage or his,
You're right. You're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah. So his burden, like the stuff he's carrying. You're right. You're beautiful. Thank you for that. And so he says that he threw down the person's burden, and inside of it, he found a snake cut and cast into two pieces. Shmuel said to him, "What did you do to merit being saved from death?" Right? And the person said to him, "Every day we all take bread together and eat from the bread. Today there was one of us who did not have bread. And then when it came time to eat and to time to gather bread, he was embarrassed because he did not have any to give. I said to the others, I will go and take the bread. And when I come to the person who did not have bread, I render myself as the one who was taking bread from him, so that he would not be embarrassed." Shmuel said to him, "You have performed a mitzvah." Shmuel went out and taught based on this incident that it is written in Proverbs, that in charity will save you from death. It does not mean that it does not only mean that it will save a person from unusual death, but even from death itself. So let's understand that. So this is the beauty of the Gemara. It's like it's speaking right now, right? But we what is it really saying to us? We're trying to understand if you're saying that the stars have nothing to do with an outcome, right? We just learned that Abraham, the stars have nothing to do with it. Abraham is above the stars, and so are his descendants. So what determines reality then? If it's not the stars, right? The whole secular world, the whole non-Jewish world, they look at the stars, the planets, this, okay, and they derive meaning. But if that doesn't exist for us, what creates reality? We're saying it here: charity, kindness, doing a mitzvah. That is what determines our reality, not the non-Jew. The non-Jew is beholden to whatever the astrological thing. Why are there so many suicides at this time of the year? Because the effects of the cosmos make people depressed. This is the time. Nothing is growing. Things have died. Everything's concealed. It's cold. You're inside. Nothing's blossoming, right? And so this is the dynamic. This is the dynamic, right? This is what we're dealing with, right? Is the fact that we're learning here in these two simple stories, one about Abraham and then another one about Prophet Shmuel. Shmuel is showing us that it's the efforts that determine us things. Some people say, well, on this day, this, and this, and on that day, this and this and this, all this type of stuff, right? This is astrology. This is non-Jews. No, what protects the Jew is the mitzvah. That's it. Just keep going. So he says, Umi de Rabbi Akiva. Woo, Rabbi Akiva. So he says, Name ein mazal Israel de Rabbi Akiva havaya le berata. So he says like this. From here, from here, what transpired with Rabbi Akiva is another example. It can be derived that a person it can be derived. It says, Rabbi, okay, it could be derived that there's no consolation for Jewish people. Another example, Rabbi Kiva had a daughter, and an astrologer told him that on that same day she will enter a wedding canopy, and a snake will bite her, and she will die. She was very worried about this, and on that day of her wedding, she took a pin from her hair and stuck it in the hole in the wall. for safekeeping. And when and it happened that it entered into the eye of the snake. In the morning, she took the pin out, and the snake was pulled and came out with it. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva, one of our greatest scholars, daughter's getting married, and so astrologer says, you know what? You're going to get bit by a snake at your wedding, and you're going to die. And so she took a pin in her hair and she stuck it in the wall for safekeeping, right? And it happened that it entered directly into the eye of the snake. In the morning, she took the pin and the snake pulled out and it came out with it. So this is the snake that was supposed to kill her. She just takes the thing out of her hair, she puts it in the wall, and it just so happened where she stuck it into, that actual snake was there, and it killed her. So what's going on? Omar le avu my Akiva. So he says like this: her father Rabbi Akiva said to her, "What did you do to merit being saved from the snake?" She told him, In the evening, a poor person came and knocked on the door. And it came and came and knocked on the came and knocked on the door, and everyone was preoccupied with the feast, and nobody heard him. I stood and took a portion that you have given me and gave it to him. And Rabbi Akiva said, you performed a mitzvah and you were saved in that merit. Another example. This is who we are. We're not controlled by anything but our behavior. This week's Torah portion is about what? Angels, battles of the metaphysical world. That's what this Torah portion is about. We're battling in the metaphysical world, right? And so in this metaphysical world that we're battling in, we're seeing that the battle for Jacob is not the battle for Esau. We see that this week's portion. Esau is coming with his army. He's ready to destroy. He's ready to conquer. He's coming in. Jacob is sitting there creating angels, sending him gifts. He's transforming his mind. He's transforming his thinking, not through physical force and violence, but through angels, right? For example, our ancestors, when we did the civil rights and we had the peaceful protest, we weren't fighting like Esau. Esau, that's what the Black Panthers wanted to do. They wanted to get guns and go and get them, or fight. And I'm not saying sometimes you have to defend yourself. I'm not saying that. But the angels that transformed America were the peaceful protest, not the acts of aggression, not the Nation of Islam, not the ballot or the bullet. That didn't make the changes. What made the changes was peace. So this understanding, again, when we're talking about the system of the calendar, we're talking about what is my reality and what is their reality. We have a different reality than the non-Jew. Okay? The way we deal with problems is different than the non-Jew. We don't have the strength that they have in the physical material world, as they don't have the strength that we have in the spiritual world. So this is another example of what saves lives by us. It's not some creative plan, or like Jacob, he had a baby army compared to his brother, right? So again, this is not who we are. We are people of peace. We're people of purity. We're people who are protected. Like when we were reading the Rabbi Nachman about music, right? He says, when you have problems with your enemies, sing their songs. Sing their songs at Shabbat. And that song that you sing by them will bring a judgment upon them from God. The same God that just told us that he will move Jupiter, the planet Sedek, from one part of the universe to another to be able to manifest the desire of his children. This is who we are. Let's keep going. So it says, Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzhak Name Ein Mazel Le Israel. He says the same thing. Who is this? From which translated from Rab Nachman bar Yitzhak, not our Rab Nachman. This is a different Rab Nachman from thousands of years before. Rab Nachman of Breslov, I think, was like 300 years ago, right? So he says like this. Rab Nachman bar Yitzhak says as well, it can be derived that there's no consolation for the Jewish people. As a astrologer told Rav Nachman's mother, your son will be a thief. She did not allow him to uncover his head. She said to her son, cover your head so that the fear of heaven will be upon you. This is why we cover our head, to have the fear of heaven upon us. That we don't want to astray, that we don't want to deviate. We want to only perform righteousness, holiness. We want to be plugged in to the true energy source, not the fake energy source. And so he says, cover your head in that the fear of heaven will be upon you, and pray for divine mercy. He did not know why why she said this to him. One day he was sitting and studying beneath a palm tree, and that did not belong to him, and the cloak fell off of his head. He lifted his eyes and saw the palm tree, and he was overcome by an impulse to climb it and detach a bunch of his dates with his teeth. Apparently, he had an unborn inclination to steal, but he was able to overcome that inclination with proper education and prayer. Okay, so that's on this part. So we're gonna learn a little. We're gonna start a little halakha on Hanukkah really quick. We'll go into that, but I just want to get some thoughts and reflections, some ideas from this particular Gemara, Shabbos.
Well, this is a very, very powerful concept that we're dealing with here, because we have a principle in my house, whereas because in the Psalms it says, "He that gives unto the poor shall lack nothing," right? And so what we do is, anytime there's someone that's hungry, or they're asking for money and whatnot, no matter what, we don't ask them, "Hey, what are you gonna do with it?" or "Where is this going?" We just give. You give it. And that's one portion of chesed that we try to do. But then also there's that's more of like when you don't know, you don't, it's not planned, but it's right there in your face, and so you have to respond. You need a response. Um, the second one is from the aspect of when we plan to go to a homeless shelter, or plan to serve meals and different things like that. That's another one. And what we found is that having that principle. Meanwhile, we've been married now going on 21, to almost 23 years now, right?
Amen, amen, amen. Just the beginning.
Amen. And yes, and we can say without any reserves at all that in those years we've never lacked. We've never lacked. Never had. Did not have a meal. Did not have. Not to say that there wasn't any
Struggles.
days. Struggles.
I say we've been fed by the raven before.
Yeah, we've been fed by the raven. Like one said.
And
so
if you don't have struggles, you need to get nervous.
Yeah,
that's right. Exactly.
And struggles will bring you closer to the Lord. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's right. And so this is a way that that the person cannot feel selfish, or like they're trying to manipulate anything. But the fact is that, listen, I choose to do what is good, and to be kind, and to give, and to do a good mitzvah. There's no manipulation in that. That's that. All you can do is get a good outcome from that. And so this gives us another level, that this is even protecting us. That this is even protecting us, because there's evil inclinations. There's evil inclinations within ourselves that this is keeping us from. But also there's things that transpire. There's darkness that is trying to pursue us. That the Most High raises up that standard for. Because He's like, hey, no, this. My children are doing good deeds in the earth. So no, I'm going to protect them from this. I tend to look at, and I'm going to let my wife, if she wants to say something here. I look at the astrologers, even in these accounts here, in a different manner, because the astrologers just really just give us something to pray about.
That's it.
They just give us something to pray about. Obviously the Most High allowed them to see something. And it came to pass, but it doesn't. Our story, our destiny is not wrapped up in their interpretations of the heavens. Our destiny is in the Creator and His plan.
Mhm. Mhm. I really appreciated, Chief Rabbi, the portion where, Father, Abraham is having this discussion, and then it goes into the fact that, where Jupiter is located in the east. And so it's like, well, I'll bring it on the opposite side of the earth. And then you see that Hashem is able to move mountains for us.
Right.
Even in the midst of what seems to be difficult trials in our time that, of testing, but he's moving,
Right.
And there's always that force that seems like it's holding things back. But we have to just remember that Hashem he's doing what he said he's going to do. And so that just was really uh just a powerful insight, and just being able to look at the sages and what they had to say about that. It just really was a beautiful thing to get that connection that Hashem will move planets on behalf of Israel.
That's right. Amen.
Yeah, and that last point that they brought up, so there's three examples, right? The first one was Abraham. So Abraham, we learn this idea of limitation, right? And because a lot of times people use the stars, if you believe, like the non-Jews, they believe by the stars. They say, hey, you know what? I had an astrological reading. This is the reality, right? That's one thing. So that gets debunked. The next example was with Prophet Shmuel, with this guy who's coming, and the non-Jew says, oh no, he's going to die, and the other and Shmuel says, no, he's not going to. Now people believe that there's good days and bad days, right? Oh, this is a bad day. It's the month of Scorpio. Oh my God, Hezron is so difficult. The weeks of the Omer between Pesach and Shavuot. Oh my God, it's so terrible. It's hard. Oh, I can't wait to get out of this month. That is not Jewish. That is not Israel, right? And so the second example is saying like, no, for the other nations, it may be a time of the year where they may not want to do that. But by us, we're always protected by charity. We're always protected by our goodness, by doing mitzvot, by performing. That's what protects us. So that's situational, right? So another thing, the last one is a genius one too, as well, right? Because it's about a lady who was told by an astrologer that her kid was going to be wicked, right? And so that's another thing. Oh, well, I was born during this time and this year and this and the whole thing. And so I was born with this inclination. Change it. Change it through study, change it through behavior modification, change that part of yourself. It may be there, but you could elevate it. But again, it's not a star thing. You're not stuck. You're not one particular way. You got something now?
Yeah, that's positive, and that's like life changing, because uh, uh, it gives you the mindset that sometimes people feel like the Creator is working against them, right? And when you really consider what we're talking about, is as if the Most High, his mindset is only for good for us. It's only for good. It's never like the negative or the darkness. It's never the trauma that we. It's always for the good. And so when we've been through trauma, when we've been through those dark places, they don't make us. That's not our permanent end. That's not the state of mind that we're supposed to stay in. So with that, if we do the things like his mother actually took action. Mm-hmm. It's almost like she didn't settle for
no.
She
rejected the non-Jewish opinion. We don't care what you think.
That's right. We don't care what you think, and so, but she also didn't neglect it either. She didn't.
Exactly.
She didn't neglect it. She did something to help her son, to prevent it, the least that she could do, and it was the right thing for her to do. And so that this is powerful.
Yeah. So this is the introduction to the whole concept of the calendar, because it's not just that we have a calendar and we have a different time system. It's what it represents to us, right? And I think the third chapter in Mind the Black Jew, it goes into calendars, Like I go through the astrology and I break everything down and compare it to the Islamic calendar, show the differences. Anyways, but the point is to say like this is to continue on with this idea of just saying, okay, so now we understand what's going on, right? So we understand that there's nothing binding to us in the stars and their alignments. However, just in the same way as the astrologer told the woman, right? He gave her an insight, right? He says, "This there's an inclination, right, of this your child's going to have, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's going to be terrible." Her as a Jewish mother says, "No, but there's nothing. We're not limited in that way." However, it's good to know that that may be a susceptibility, and I'm going to deal with it from the beginning just in case, right? So it's the same thing by the historical dates on the calendar. The historical dates on the calendar give us an insight of what that particular light that's coming down from the heavens is. That's it. Every light has a different characteristic, has a different funnel. It's like a kaleidoscope, right? It's like the different lights come down and there's different fragments that express itself at different times of the year. So how do we know what the light is? Everything's from Hashem. It's the light of Hashem. So how do we know which one, what this particular light is about? So we learn the quality of the light and what the light gives us the power to do by the historical experience. Through the historical experience, we can understand the light, but the light in itself is not the historical experience. That has nothing to do with us. We're not holding by that. We're just saying during this cosmic alignment that this particular light of Pesach is coming down. This particular light of Shavuot is coming down. This particular light of Rosh Chodesh is coming down. In this case, we're talking about Hanukkah, right? Which is a rabbinical enactment. The rabbis put that because they notice that this power of this light that's happening right now, we need to connect to this every year, right? And so that's what it's about. So this whole game is about connecting to the light force of Hashem and being able to do that throughout the year directly to our soul, because we are operating in a different system than the other nations. So the way that they get energy is not the way we get energy. And as African Americans who are descendants of Israelite tribes, we spent our whole American existence imitating Asaph, trying to be like him, trying to use his ways and figure out why it's not working for us. Why is it not working for us? That we have been using these traditions and these techniques of another nation, and it ruins our health when we eat like them, the conflict, everything, even the N-word, which I'm not going to say, that is imitating them. That type of human being that has such a lack of concern and care and arrogance, that person is a person who could justify enslaving other people. That's the person who could justify massacring other people and just being good with it. That's what we see in our neighborhoods today. We're seeing that person, the clone of our oppressor, is expressed in a Crip and a Blood. So this is what we got to deal with, right? We got to deal with this idea of rearranging the whole system. How do we receive our light? I have a soul. I have a different relationship with Hashem, with the Creator. So what do I do now, right? So this is where so we're going to start just like a brief introduction to Hanukkah, and then we're going to go more halakhic after this. Not today, but we're going to do a brief introduction, and then we're going to go into the halakas and things, and preparing the house and the children, and little idea with the kids every day. Hey, here's a lesson, a new lesson every day up into Hanukkah, and then during the days of Hanukkah, the kids got to prepare their own lessons. Right? They gotta talk about their own miracles. They gotta talk about what they're thankful for, what their future is gonna be like. They gotta think about what's gonna happen in the future, right? How they're gonna overcome darkness when it comes into their life. They're gonna see these lights. So this is the thing. And me and your husband, we were talking about it and saying, hey, and we're gonna see when we learn halakha. It's not today, but hey, we're required, Alpi Halakha, to tell over miracle stories of our families. From our parents, grandparents, neighborhood, people around us, cousins, nephews, aunts, nieces, all that, friends of theirs. Oh, you so-and-so had this story. We have to remember miracle stories. And the reason why is because the root of Kislev, the root of the nace, of the miracle, is to be able to see God, right? That's the root of it. The root of a miracle is like, whoa, that was God. So what better way to train our minds to see God all the time by seeing our history and how God has saved us, how God has been there for us, how God is in, what's the better way? So we have an entire 8 days focused on building that muscle. We spend 8 days building that muscle of understanding that no, God is going to save me. He saved me before and he's going to save me now. And I could hear it. And I know my dad, he used to say this all the time. He used to say, hey, when I was building the business, I didn't know how you guys were going to eat, but it happened. That's the miracle. That's the reality. So if God gave us this, because what is the challenge? The challenge as a human, forget we're talking about from a Black perspective, but just as a human, we have this thing where we are not able to see that the good God has done for us today will be the good he does for us tomorrow. We don't believe it because we don't trust ourselves. We don't trust ourselves not to sin. So we're like, hey, I may fall off. So I got to get what I could get now. But if we trust righteousness, if we trust right, for sure God's going to provide tomorrow. So that's the ego. The ego says what God has done for me today and what he's done for me in the past may not be later. So I got to panic. I got to be nervous. I got to be worried. All this. How many times you worried? How am I going to pay for this? How am I going to pay for that? It get paid for somehow. Right? So who made that happen? Hashem. And Hashem would delay things just to bring us to that humility. The whole concept of man. The whole concept of man, and I wrote about this, was a recalibration of the system. Like when we fell out of the Garden of Eden and God says we're going to have to earn by the sweat of our brow, it's not that we had to earn by the sweat of our brow, because I could bring you a bunch of sources that say a righteous person will never go hungry. So what's the sweat of the brow? The sweat of the brow is a perception. And that's the curse. It's a perception that I am making this money, that my labor is making this happen, and my power and my dominance is the reason why I have on my table. This is Aesop. This is Aesop consciousness. Go ahead.
You know, that's a blessing, because we've come to a mindset that, you know, when we go out to work, we go out to earn a living, that those resources are simply tools, but the real purpose is that, you know, the mitzvos that we can do along the way while we're working. Just, you know, for example, just when we go, if we're able to help somebody, that car was stalled or something like that on the side of the road, okay? Just giving an example. Then the whole reason that we got up that morning, the whole reason that we got on our journey to go and earn, was the fact that this person would be there at that particular time and that we were able to help. And so we kind of look at that from that standpoint to say, you know, even if we didn't go out today to earn $1, right? These things are going to be taken care of some way, somehow. Most likely he's going to take care of it, you know. And then we've also come to a place to say, you know, if something that we are expecting to happen does not happen, then it may be that that's Hashem's will for it not to happen at that time, or for it not to happen at all. Maybe that's our own expectations, and so this is really good.
So there's a term called hastaglis, right? And so hastaglis basically means like effort, right? You have to do your hastaglis. You got to put in the effort, right? So there's a famous story about a guy. There's a famous story about there's a Rabbi Chaim Volozhiner, which was a huge rabbi in Europe, yeshiva, a big thing, right? So there's a story about him that a student came to him during the Omer, right? The days of the Omer where people don't shave their beard. It's a process of mourning, the whole thing, right? So he comes to him, he asks him, he says, can I have permission to shave my beard? Because I'm gonna go out on this date and I, you know, I want to look my best, right? And Rav Chaim said to him, he says, what do you need to shave your beard for? He says, you realize that when you were born, your soul was in the heavens and your soul was declared that you're going to come into the earth. There was also a matching soul, right? So it was already predestined that you're going to meet on this particular day at this particular time in this particular place. So he said to him, okay, if that's the case, what do I need to date at all for? Is this going to happen on a particular day? Predict why I'm doing this? He says, you do it so you don't fall into Yeush. What does it mean, Yeush? To despair. While a person's waiting to meet that special person, the dates keep you going. The dates are like, okay, hey, maybe this is the one. I don't know. I felt something. You know, we both eat Cheerios in the morning. Oh my God, I can't believe it. You know, this type of thing. So you have that, and then you find out a few weeks later, nah, she wasn't her, man. It wasn't her. Nah. She eat Doritos, man. I can't stand people that eat Doritos. I'm a Lay's person, right? So you get it, and then you go out on another day. And you go out another day. And then eventually you meet the girl you end up marrying, right? And so this whole idea of hastaglis, right, is the idea of putting in the effort, knowing that God is the one who's making it happen. So when we go to work and we go to earn, it's not like we're doing it like, yeah, man, I'm a genius, man. Look what happened. No, we go and say, hey, you know what? I'm putting in the effort. I'm doing the hastaglis, and God brings that blessing because I only want blessed money. I only want blessed. I know this girl right now, amazing girl, right? Very nice girl, and she's dealing with some really difficult stuff, right? She's dealing with addictions, all types of. But her dad is a multi-millionaire guy, right? Like one deal went wrong, they lost 40 million. This type of thing, right? They live in some the expensive here in Jerusalem, but also anyway. I'm talking. But the point is saying, obviously, that money that the dad got was not blessed. Obviously, I don't want that money. I want my simple amount of money that is holy, that everyone is satiated, everybody is safe. I don't need mansion money. What is that going to do for me? I need money to give more charity. You know what I'm saying? These types of things pass the well-being of my family. But this whole Asaph approach to existence, right? Where you have to have this super abundance and all this is not Yaakov. This is not Yaakov. He says to his brother, I'm good. I have enough. Right? So that's showing that this is not the thinking of Asaph. We're sitting up here, we want bling bling. No, we don't want bling bling. We don't want it. Give me simple stuff that keeps my family together, that my kids don't go astray. That's what I need. I don't need to bring that dark stuff in it. And that's what people don't realize. You have to live righteously. This is not a game. You know what I mean? This is not a game. And we've been so indoctrinated by what we were told was happiness, what we were told was success. And we're looking at it like, bro, come on, man. This is not it. This is not it. I grew up in Calabasas in Los Angeles, you know, wealthy area. Most of the kids I went to school with went to rehab. They're all doing drugs. We're in high school. They're doing drugs. They're doing coke in high school. Forget about college. Forget about Hollywood. In high school. For me, I'm black. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna be no crackhead. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I had built-in restrictions from being black around white people. Hey, you guys are built differently than me. You could do me. I'm a crackhead if I do that stuff. You know what I mean? My system is different. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm strong. You know what I mean? I need a mountain of cocaine. I don't need a line like you guys. You know what I mean? So the point is saying, so I was saved from that environment for sports, and I had good parents, and I just, you know, being black, you just don't mess with hard drugs like that. You know what I mean? So the point is just saying that a lot of this conversation is understanding what's good for them is not good for me. And part of my suffering is being able to separate those two worlds, right? And to start training my mind in the frame of Yaakov, right? In the frame of Jacob, and being able to say like, oh, well, you know what? I need to eat kosher food because the way that food is designed for my soul. The other food is not. It is not. So let's go into the introduction to Hanukkah stuff you guys already know, but hey, you know what? We got to go step by step because more importantly, this is how you guys are going to teach other people, right? Because that's how we got to crank this thing out. We need teachers. You know what I mean? We need to crank this thing out. We need to build communities. A tremendous amount of the money that is spent by African Americans in places that do not benefit us, that money needs to come to growing the movements that we're doing. Okay, so it says, okay. So it says like this. I'm going to read in English just so we could go through it very fast because we've been here. So it says, on the 25th of the month of Hanukkah, 8 days, on the 25th of Hanukkah is the 25th of the month, is Hanukkah, 25th of Kislev, where one does not utilize, right? There's no like mourning, because the Greek entered the temple and defiled all the oil there. Okay, what does this mean? When the hand of the Hashmoneans, the hands of Hashmoneans was made strong, and they defeated the Greeks. They checked the temple. So the Greeks they take the temple, this whole thing, they defile the whole place, whatever. But the Hashmonean Empire, right, which the Maccabees came and they conquered them. So they went back into the temple, and there was only one jar. There was only one oil sealed with the marks of a high priest, which would remain undefiled. Though there was only enough to light for one day, the miracle is that the miracle occurred that when they lit it in the temple, it went for 8 days, right? I remember like sometimes with my wife, like certain candles, if we lit a candle, if she likes candles on Shabbat, and then the next morning she wakes up and some of the candles are still burning, and she's like, "Look, the candles are still burning." You know what I mean? So it's a miracle, right? So the following year, even though there are candles that go for 24 hours, anyways, so the following year to be decreed. So the rabbi said from this point on, as we said earlier, that they decreed that from this day on, there's going to be an 8-day celebration. So we're going to learn the halakha, how to celebrate, how to bring this light down. But right now, we're getting the gist of the story. And what justification did they see making Hanukkah 8 days? Wasn't it wasn't the dedication of Hanukkah, which Moshe did in the wilderness, only 7 days? As it says, when you leave the entrance of the tent for 7 days. So they're saying, we'll go into, I'm saying we're going to go into it because the Hanukkah, the menorah, is so out of this planet. You may have saw some of the conversations I had with other gentlemen about it, but we're going to go into it ourselves. But it's unbelievable. You can't say it enough times. So he's saying, but by there, it was 7 days. So what is this idea? 8 days, right? Because by Moshe, when they had the 10 of meetings and they had their offering, when they lit the menorah, they met it for 7 days. It says in Vayikra, and it says the one who brought his offering on the first day, Bart Midbar, and on the 7th day, Ephraim made his offering, right? So we find here too the dedication. So too we find the dedication of Shlomo made it only last for 7 days for the inauguration of the altar. They made 7 days, and the feast for 7 days. So all these things are coming out. So us being biblical scholars, we got to understand, what is this 8-day dedication thing for? Traditionally, the Jews have always done 7 days. So what reason did they see to make dedication 8 days? Great question. In the days of the kingdom of the Greeks, the Hashmoneans entered the temple and built an altar, plastered it with plaster for 7 days, and then they were prepared and they were preparing the vessels for service. The dedication done by the Hashmonean, it was to be marked for all generations. So why is it that practice for all generations? So they fixed it when they came out of a narrow place into a broad place, and they said praises and thankful, lighting candles in purity. Since the Greeks had gone to the temple and defiled all the vessels, there's nothing with light when the Hashmoneans were victorious. Oh wow! They brought 7 skewers of iron and covered them with tin and began to light. So what I'm getting is this idea of saying that, what is this 8 days? This 8 days, because they how would you say skewer? How would you understand the word skewer of iron? What's a skewer?
It's like something. Skewer is like a pole or rod that you grab hold to or push through meat or flesh in order to cook with.
Okay, so let me just go over this. I just want to understand what they're saying here, so and it will be done. So he says like this. He says, why is the dedication 8 days? He says, in the days of the Greeks, the king of the Greeks, the Hashmoneans entered the temple, the altar, plastered it with plaster for 7 days. This is what the Greeks did, right? And they were preparing. Wait, no, sorry, I'm reading it wrong. In the days of the Greek kingdom, the Hashmoneans entered the temple, the opposite, and built in the altar and plastered it with plaster for 7 days. they were preparing the vessel for service. So for 7 days, they prepared everything. And on the eighth day, they did it, right? Does that make sense? And then it says, and then it says, so why is it all time? He said, because he says, so why is it for all the generations? He said, they fixed it when they came out of a narrow place into a broad place. They fixed it when they came out of a narrow place into a broad place. And they said praises and glory. So they were in, oh, well, okay, here's what they're saying. So it's like leaving Egypt, like Mitzrayim. Like Mitzrayim, it could be understood as being narrow, right? So leaving Exodus of Mitzrayim, yeah, right, is leaving this narrow place, going into this expanded place, which is Israel. So this is the same principle by Pesach. So they're comparing it to the same thing. That for they were in a narrow place, and they're brought out of a narrow place into a broad space, and they said praises. Exactly this. So lighting lamps and purity. Since the Greeks had gone into the temple and defiled all the vessels, there was nothing to light, right? So the Hashmonaim. So what do? They were victorious. When they were victorious, they brought skews of iron and covered them with tin and begin to light. Okay.
Oh,
go ahead.
Yeah. I think from what I'm understanding is, I'm thinking that the skewers is like maybe wooden poles, and they wrap them because it says that there was nothing to light with, and so I guess that was their way of setting those poles apart to maybe make torches to light to light the candle. You see, and so
to let the people know that they won.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that broad, that's very interesting because whenever you come out of a bad situation in life, a dark place in life, you come out and you're on the other side, like we say, we're on the other side of this storm, right? And you come out, it's like, wow, I'm in a broad place. It's clear and blue skies now. It's not dark anymore, And when you look at they were coming out of a situation where they were being oppressed, and now this oppression is over. It's kind of like if you think about the Holocaust, or you think about slavery. Man, we were like in a real
narrow place,
and now we come out. It's like, wow, everything is broad now. My perception is different. Now I gotta, I can move freely.
That's beautiful. You're a teacher, 100%. So, okay, so we'll stop here for today. We're going to keep pushing it, and the key thing is this is you guys are teachers, right? So I'm here giving certain tools and certain skills that I was able to learn. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I want to share something as well.
Oh, this was something that we read this week, Rabbi, as we were studying and preparing the children for this time of Hanukkah, and it was just a story about a king who went to visit a friend. And so I was going to see if my husband could just read it to you, and maybe it'll bless you. And you may have already heard it before, but I just thought it was a really beautiful story as we're talking about the light.
Okay. It says, to what can this be compared? To a king who had a beloved friend to whom he said, know that I intend to dine with you. Prepare a place for me. He went and prepared a place to the best of his ability. And the king came. He was accompanied by his servants and attendants, carrying golden lamps. When the friend saw the lavish honor which accompanied the king, he became embarrassed, and he hid everything which he had prepared. The king said to him, did I not inform you that I would dine with you? Why have you not prepared anything? The friend replied, my master, I saw the lavish honor which accompanied you, and I was embarrassed and hid all that I had prepared. The king told him, I swear that I shall abandon all that I brought with me and will use only that which is yours because of your love for me. God is himself surrounded by light. But he commanded Israel to prepare a menorah and kindle a perpetual light. When Moshe built the tabernacle and menorah and the Shekinah came, the verse which is in Shemos 40:35 states, and Moshe was unable to come to the tabernacle, for the cloud dwelt upon it, and the story of God filled the tabernacle. Later, the verse in Midbar 7:8-9 states, and when Moshe came to the tabernacle to speak to God, he heard the voice talking to him. What was said to him when you kindled the lights? The children of Israel said, God created the sun and the moon, which provide light for the entire world, yet he desires that we kindle lights for him.
It's a beautiful Hanukkah story.
I thought that was very beautiful.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you. What book is that? What sefer is that?
This is out of the Book of Our Heritage.
Right here.
The Book of Our Heritage.
I've seen it. A lot of people have this book. I don't have it, but a lot of people have this book. Yeah.
Yes, sir. But that was just a story that, as you're going through this safer here, I just thought it was just a beautiful story to share. And you can.
Okay. Well, also we wanna ask you about something really quickly here. Me and my wife, we our birthdays are coming up. Okay, which is my birthday's this Friday, hers is Saturday. We're born a day apart. Okay, and so we in the same year too. We in the same year.
Yeah, this is wild.
Yeah, so we want to be a blessing to you and your wife, the rabbiness. And so we can just be a blessing to you all on those days, mainly Friday, to be a blessing. Would that be okay if we do that?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny you're saying that, because I was going to invite you to join a class. No, it's a class for just my student. It's just going to be you and the guy from Texas, and your wife wants to join. But on Friday, I think a little bit early. We had to see time, but he does a class. We do a class on Friday on the Parsha, just to give a few ideas for the Parsha. So if you want, you could join that, and then from there, my wife has been dealing with a lot of health issues, so she's been in and dealing with treatments. That's why she's kind of been off the radar. So I don't know how much she'll be able to be engaged at this point. She's healing right now, but in terms of me, I'm 100% here. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. And so what time? What time?
Yeah, let me. I'll send you that. I'll send you that time on doing it. But he's there, and then from there, it'll be easy for you guys to just start to connect, and then also, God willing, learn together as well too. You know what I mean? And we can start slowly building a community. You know what I mean? Because that's the main thing.
And we'll be praying for.
And we'll be praying for.
Amen. I'll send you her name later today, and then you could. Just keep her in your prayers and that type of thing, because it's needed.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so we'll end it here. Baruch atah Adonai le'olam amen ve'amen, and we'll just continue on. You want to say something?
No.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Any questions, anything, you can reach out to me anytime. If you want to talk, anything, just call me and we'll chop it up. But yeah, Friday we'll just do a Torah, just a tune-up. It's not very long. It's maybe 30 minutes or something like that. And we just I bring the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. I don't know if you heard of the Baal Shem Tov. So we go over his commentaries before show, and they're big stuff, big ideas, and it's there to infuse what we say at Shabbat, because we always got to have new Torah, fresh Torah, big ideas in Shabbat, and so we want to just come with those ideas. And so we learn Baal Shem Tov. It's more Kabbalistic, but it's very fun. So so you're welcome to join that, and then it's short. It's 30 minutes, but it's nice, and it just keeps us connected, and it starts you in OTNL to start learning together.
All right.